everybody, it is Calxiyn here with ThatKaitoDan, and today we're going to be doing the first ever RWBY community interview. So I asked my patrons on Patreon what they wanted us to talk about, and so I stalked Dan's channel, and now I have a list of questions. So that's basically what we have going on here. So hi, Dan. Thanks for being my first victim.
Oh god, is that what I'm called now?
Yeah, that's what somebody in the chat was like, oh boy, like, you're tormenting Dan for your first video.
Yeah, I'm the guinea pig for this, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, first of all, I think, like, everybody kind of should know, like, how you got into Rooster Teeth, or, like, RWBY, sort of, in the first place. Because that's sort of, like, everybody's YouTube origin story. It's like, how did you find RWBY? So, like, go ahead and tell us that.
Well, I've been familiar with Rooster Teeth a good while before RWBY came along. I'm a big fan of the Achievement Hunter. I watched a ton of their podcasts on Rooster Teeth as well. But I didn't actually know about RWBY until a friend of mine who is a big Red vs. Blue fan. She pointed me towards the Red trailer because that was at the end of, I believe, one of the seasons. And I checked it out, thought it was interesting, so I kept on following track with the trailers, and here I am now, getting ready for Volume 6, and I'm in deep now. I can't escape.
And, like, you're probably one of the ones who's been doing it, like, the longest, because, like, I stalked all the way back to your channel, so, like, I looked, and you have videos, like, from all the way from Volume 2, so I'm like, Dan may be, like, one of, like, the first people to really get involved, so that's kind of fun. So why did you start making, like, RWBY videos? Like, what inspired you to get started on that front?
God. Just thinking back now, my old videos for that. Well, I've been on YouTube for a good while. I started out on a different channel completely, doing voice acting stuff, like fan dubs.
I found it.
Oh, God, no.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, no. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, I eventually moved over to a new channel because I had some issues with the other one. And around the time that Volume 2 was starting up, I was thinking, you know what? I want to do some videos on RWBY. I don't know if it's going to stick with reviews or if it's just updates on the news. Because I think the first thing I actually talked about was the first trailer for Volume 2.
Yep.
And I'm very inexperienced when it comes to reviewing content and all that stuff. It was basically just something to pass the time, and if it stuck, then I would continue with it. And of course, here we are now, still doing it.
And like, so I looked back, and like, you have like 2 big like Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy reactions, because like I was looking through all the RWBY videos, and then there's just this spike, and so like were those basically like the 2 like first big videos on your channel? Like, how did you feel when you saw that it kind of developed like that? You know what I mean?
I understand why those ones are exceedingly popular, because obviously the content itself was massive. The trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake and the Kingdom Hearts stuff always gets a huge crowd, but I wouldn't say they were like the first big explosion I had. I think the first one was, I can't remember exactly, but it was one of the earlier episodes of Volume 2.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure if you like caught on this, if you like watched the video that I mentioned it, but Monty posted out about my reviews on Twitter at one point.
Oh man, that's awesome.
that I didn't know about that for a while until actually Arnold mentioned it in one of the comments. It was like, here, because I think it was like something Monty sent me, and I was like, what, really?
Oh,
Monty?
Man, that's wild. Like, I didn't know that.
And no, I checked the tweet. I still got like an image of it saved, and it was basically just him saying, I like these reviews. He's got a voice that should be on Discovery Channel. I was like, God damn. It blew my mind, and that just shot up my, like, I guess my viewership for a good while on that. So yeah, even though like the Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy reaction from earlier on, that was like a huge thing, I would say the biggest explosion I had early on was around that time.
That's really
at the start of Volume 2. And that's something I'm always grateful for Monty for.
So how did, I guess, then you decide to like narrow in on like analysis and reaction and the news breakdowns? Like what kind of convinced you to kind of focus on those sort of that sort of content?
Well, I've always been very analytical. I've got Asperger's syndrome, so that kind of I've got a natural occurrence in me that wants me to nail down every little detail and analyze it and all that. So that's always been a big part of me for a long time. In terms of like why I started doing that long term for RWBY, obviously I was starting to get into a good trend of doing it as the years went by. And I just enjoyed creating a discussion, even if it was like with a handful of people. I just like finding interesting topics or interesting little details that most people might glance over, or even just talking about the popular stuff. It's just that kind of stuff that I like to share my voice in, even if it's one person hearing it or if it's over 100. And I've been enjoying it ever since.
I totally agree with that. Like, I think that's the best part of the RWBY community is sort of like all the conversation that we can stir up, like with people, even just between ourselves. Even
if it goes from like level 1 to level infinity in terms of the stuff that we can talk about, there's always going to be a huge conversation, even if it's the most serious or if it's the most slapstick. It's always something that I thoroughly enjoy being a part of in the community. And that's why, like, by the end of Volume 2, I was thinking, you know what? I can do this. I can do this long term. This ain't gonna be just like something I'm doing if I feel like it. No, this is something I want to do as often as I can, for as long as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did.
So, who, like, inspires you in terms of, like, in the RWBY community for making, like, videos? So it doesn't need to be just YouTubers, but who are you like, yeah, that guy, like, you know what I mean? Like, that sort of, like, you watch their videos and you're like, yeah, I want to be like that, or, like, you know, just inspires you to keep creating content, stuff like that, you know what I mean?
I mean, obviously, I gotta say Arnold is a big one. The guy is, like, he's the engine of the RWBY community, and he thoroughly deserves that trait. I also really enjoy the works of like Jake the One Man Band, Eruption Fang, you obviously, and all the other even all the other reactors. For those who just stick with the reactors, I love the passion and energy that they put into it, compared to say the Murder of the Birds, the One Man Bands, the Eruption Fangs, who go much deeper into it.
Yeah.
Semblance of Sanity, or that hour-long conversations afterwards. It's just like I follow a lot of people in the community, and those are the kind of people that they inspire me, but I never try to equal, because I don't want to be that kind of person chasing them, and I don't want to be seen as a different equivalent to those guys. I want to be my own thing. So that's why, even though theories are like a big part of the community, I don't tend to gravitate towards them, because I don't feel I can really add to that as much as I do with my other stuff. Though there's definitely ways that I want to expand in the future to branch out into my own staple. But there's definitely a ton of people in the community and even out of the community that inspires my content beyond what I could manage.
For out of the community, like what YouTubers, I guess, do you watch that maybe aren't RWBY related, but are still like...
I guess like the big ones, I follow a lot of video game reviewers as well, like guys like Cadicarus, Some Call Me Johnny, they're big ones. I also follow a ton of Let's Players, like Chucker Conroy.
Oh, I love him so much.
He's so good, I love it. And all the Runaway guys as well. The Super Gaming Brothers with Some Call Me Johnny and that. I love the kind of people who do these simple things. Like Let's Play can be seen as a very simple kind of content, but they go one step beyond with the energy and the passion and the charisma that they put into it. And that's just something that I really adapted a lot over the years, because I know I was very, very bland, very, I guess, simple and stoic in my earlier videos. And that's adding a bit more of my personality into it. And that's something that I think the longer you get into this kind of content creating career, you need to be able to put more of yourself into it, not just doing the basics.
So you talked about your voice acting channel earlier. So wanna just tell us about that, Dan? Just like why did you start that? Like, what did you wanna, you know what I mean? Because it's like 6 or 7 years old, and I'm like, that's like as old as my channel too. So I'm like, what's going on with that, Dan?
And that's not even like the oldest channel. I had some really older stuff. Yeah, but unfortunately I lost those channels. But I've been doing it for a good while. And then kind of around the time that I started doing the RWBY stuff, it kind of froze because I needed to deviate my attention. But as for why I started doing that, I love voice acting in anime and in video games. I did acting courses in college and in university for a bit. I just love how anyone, no matter who they are or what they look like as a person, they can breathe life into these characters through their voice and give out so much like believable human emotions into them. Like the first time I truly felt impassioned by voice acting was when I got knee deep into Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. The dub for that is outstanding, and that was around the time where I was like, I'm interested in the people behind the microphone, and from that I felt like, you know what? When I do my own videos, because I know that was a huge part of the community as well, and even people who are like professional voice actors today, and obviously like people who do other content like the Team 4-Star guys, they make their own content in terms of voice acting as well. And that's just something I started to do as a passion. Over the years, I have really fallen off it, and I think the most recent voice acting thing I did was a Persona 5 video that I did on ThatKaitoDan. But that's something I definitely want to get back to at some point, even if it's just doing it casually. But I love voice acting. I love acting myself. I thoroughly enjoyed performing on stage as well when I was doing that at college. I love the fact that in terms of my strongest performances in fan dubs, I love the fact that one of my most popular ones is the final scene with Jim Hawkins in Treasure Planet.
Yeah, that's the one that I saw.
That's probably my most viewed one, and I love the fact that I still get comments on there every so often.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the strongest work that I put in that I enjoyed. But there's another project that's on a different channel out there, which was, unfortunately, because some of the parts are gone because of, copyright.
Yeah.
But I was in a full fan dub of The Lion King 2.
Oh, really?
And I was the voice of adult Kovu. And I love the fact that I go back to that sometimes and I see half a ton of comments about, I didn't know Kovu was British, or something that's like, Kovu with a British accent, loving it. So yeah. I think that's one that I always enjoy as well, just from seeing the reactions to it. And I also think I did a pretty decent job of that. My microphone quality wasn't good, but yeah, my voice acting side has always been a part of me, and that's something I definitely want to go back to. But yeah, I've had good fun with it, even from way back.
Mm-hmm. So, if somebody wants to start a YouTube channel, maybe not just a RWBY YouTube channel, but since you have the voice acting channel too, like, what advice would you give to them?
Look towards your passions. Look towards something that you are very, very passionate about. If it's reading, if it's video games, anything that you might consider a hobby is a very good foundation for what you want to do. Again, like I started off with voice acting because I loved acting. I moved into the RWBY stuff because I was passionate about the show, and I'm passionate about anime as well. And I got my analytical side that I'm very in tune with, that I want to spread out with. Anything that you've already put in a lot of time into offline, that is a very good stepping stone for you to create something online. Even if it's small, even if it's brief, you can still grow and build from that. And that's pretty much how I got started.
I think that's really good advice. Yeah.
Even if you fumble at times and you stumble with it, don't be afraid as well to take breaks on it, because it took me a while to get into a run of things. But if you've got the passion for it, and if you got the time and effort, then it will come back around, and you will be definitely rewarded for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's pretty solid advice. So now, we're gonna get into some fandom questions. So, I know that you've done some, like, shipping analysis videos, like, of the names.
Yep.
But what do you ship, Dan? Like, if you ship, what do you ship?
In terms of just RWBY?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. Just from doing those shipping videos, I've kind of got, like, a small passion for a lot of weird ones. But obviously, like, the big one that I still got a special place in my heart for is Arcos. I'm still in love with that, even with everything that happens. But I've always got a soft spot for that, and that's always been one that's going to be at the start. I got an admitted fondness for some crack ships, like God, what can be one I could say? Jean and one of the Malachite sisters.
That's so random.
I know. I think it was like a really good fanfic that I really enjoyed. That I was like, I could see that. In terms of like stronger main ones, though, I am a Bumblebee shipper.
You guys heard it here first.
I am on that card, but I am not one to go too strong, if I can say that in the most positive sense.
Yeah.
I at the same time, I can also see the positives in Black Sun, Sunny Bees as well. Basically, I like any ship where I can see a decent amount of good chemistry, even if it's from fan works that kind of elevate it. I don't like toxic ones like Adam and Blake. I don't like squeaky ones like Yang and RWBY. I follow anything where I can see a possibility of genuine love. And even if it's something that does become a couple but doesn't end up as a couple by the end of it, I'm all for that as well. But yeah, at this point, I can say I'm a general shipper. I'm a shipper for all.
That's exactly like me, so I'm just like, yeah, damn.
And I will always love any kind of ship that's created just for the names. That's always going to be something that I'm such a huge fan of, because creativity in that is unreal, and that's a huge reason why I did those ship analysis videos.
So, what do you think about the shipping part of the fandom? Like, do you think that there's a lot of conflict there? Like, have you seen a lot of that? Like, what do you think of that sort of side of things? You know what I mean?
I would be very foolish to say that there is no conflict. There's always gonna be that negative side of the shipping side, which does come to light a few times, which is unfortunate. But it's not the first time I've seen this. I've seen this from the Naruto side. I'm seeing this currently in some cases with My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
I even remember seeing it a lot with the Pokemon side of shipping. And Digimon, that was always a big one, especially with some of the stuff in Season 2. You know what? I can never support any kind of fan who uses toxic words, actions, to try and ruin the enjoyment of other people. I can't stand that in any kind of medium.
Yeah.
But I will never see that kind of negative side and judge the entire group by that. It's always a loud majority over a loud minority, over the more quiet, calm, but just as expressive majority. The shipping side of RWBY has its faults, but when it shines, it is something outstanding. From the fan art, from the fanfics, all of the outstanding cosplays I've seen, and people proposing to each other as couples. Like the Ren and Nora one recently at
RTX.
At RTX, that kind of stuff always warms my heart. So, as ugly as the shipping side can always be, I've seen it before, and I know it will happen in the future with other stuff. It will show up, but it's never dominant, and I am always a fan of seeing the new stuff that comes out of the shipping community. Just sometimes folks remember that the show doesn't live or die by romance
Yeah.
or your couples. And even beyond the show, your ships can still live on through fan works and all that just from your passion alone.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of your favorite fan theories? Because I know that you said that you're not interested in maybe making videos, but do you have some that you're like, that's a good one, you know what I mean?
I never supported the theory myself, but I loved just how long-lasting and immortal the Crow is Ruby's dad theory was. That theory would never die.
It still isn't
die.
dead.
It's living on small gaps of energy now, but I just love the fact that for the longest time, even with so much proof saying it's not gonna happen, I just love the fact that people are still lifting that theory up. But beyond that, I did love a lot of the stuff in terms of, is this person really Neo? Like the biggest one obviously was the Pyrrha smirk in the elevator, which I love the theories when you can take something small but elevate it into something bigger. Though I also shout out and give some respect to the people who were on Raven is actually the Spray Maiden, not Vanal, because damn, that is one of the cases where the theory comes true, but I was solely seeing all the other sides against it, but it worked because it was an actual twist. So props to the RWBY for that, and props to the fans for supporting that. In terms of other theories, I can't really think of other ones that come to mind. It's mostly just the main popular ones. And some of like the more recent stuff that floats up, like is who's going to end up with who, and sometimes that's another ship inside, but also what's going to happen in Atlas, what's going to happen with the relic, is Ozpin as good as he says? I like dipping my nose into that kind of stuff. As I said, I'm not really fully a part of the theory side, but I've got a lot of love and respect for some of those ones who've, again, lasted a while or have gone to great lengths to make something that's small actually end up pretty big.
So earlier you talked about fan fiction. So who in the community are your favorite, like, either artists that make RWBY art or fanfic writers, or like some of your favorite fan fictions, like stuff like that?
In terms of fan art, I gotta obviously say Dishwasher. His recent stuff as well has been utterly fantastic, and I loved the fact as well we had that period where every single piece of work that he was making was actually coming true in the show. That is fantastic from that point alone. I also love, obviously, every new bit that comes out of Mojo. I love I just love anything that is cute or something that is expressive. I don't really have like a strong favorite that, I follow them every single time. I just like anything that stands out, always captures my imagination because I see it captures the imagination of the person behind it. And that's always a big side of the community that I always loved and why it keeps on going as strong as it does. So I've got my favorites, but in terms of like the top one, I can't pick them.
So what do you think of, I guess, the RWBY, like, criticism YouTubers? So, like, Unicorn of War and, like, Vex and, like, that sort of side of the community as well, since we've gone through, like, the shipping side, the theory side. Like, this is the last side I can think of to talk about.
You know what? Opinions, we've got all of them. We differ on things. We agree on some things. There's definitely points that those people have made and others that you might not mention that I don't agree with, and I do wish that some of the more strongly negative ones do try to understand that sometimes the negative side can overweigh some of their positive sides, because some of the negative stuff that is brought up is well within their right, and it does make a lot of sense. Like, obviously, in terms of, like, one that comes to mind, Unicorn of War talks about the jumpy animations in fights. That was a very well-grounded complaint, and hopefully some of that does come up into mind. All the complaints about the story, the show don't tell side, I can definitely agree with it, and I may not be the biggest fan sometimes of that kind of critiquing side, but I also remember that in my reviews, I try to balance being a fan and being a reviewer. And again, I'm still learning with this stuff. I'm not a professional reviewer, but I always try to make sure that any negatives I share, I do it for the sake of the show, not for the sake of I guess benefiting my own ego. And I'm not saying that those people who do critique and who have negative sides are doing it for their own ego. It has been a very prominent side of the community, which has its good sides and its faults, but I will never begrudge that side, because that is still a part of the fandom that shows they want to see the best out of the show, and I respect them for that.
In terms of RWBY, so do you have any favorite members either on the team or like in terms of voice actors, or even like I know a lot of people have like certain animators that they like, so anything like that? Like do you have I guess a favorite or a couple like people that you follow more than others, let's say?
I can't really say I got a favorite. I got a lot of ones I probably follow more closely than I do some of the other ones, like can't really think of any out of the top of my head. Like Melanie, she's one I follow recently. I also obviously follow Miles, Kerry, and Gray, and I always enjoy seeing them guys, even from outside of the community and outside of RWBY, for other stuff that they're involved with. I don't necessarily have favorites, but I definitely do have ones that I follow more than the others. But I have massive respect from everyone in terms of the animators, the directors, especially the voice acting. That's why I have my voice acting praise of the episode segment in my reviews, because I always want to shine a light on even like not the strongest voice actor, but one I feel deserves some praise and some love. So that's why I bring out that side of my reviews. I just love everyone in the community and the RWBY, even if they have been, even if they're no longer with the crew.
Yeah. So let's talk about Volume 6 now, as we start to, like, I guess wrap stuff up, if you want to call it that. So what do you hope happens in Volume 6, or like doesn't happen, or like predictions that you have, just sort of stuff like that?
I think the biggest one for me is I think we need more from RWBY. She's obviously the leading character of the show. Most people attribute her as the face of RWBY, and I understand the direction that they have taken with her in the last couple of volumes, where she's very restrained. She's bottling up all her emotions to keep a brave face for everyone else, but she's kind of suffered for that. She hasn't been given a lot to do. The training arc side that probably should have done a lot better for her didn't really flesh her out further or make her a stronger fighter or character. So that's definitely one aspect that I definitely want to see more of, especially for another side, which is I want to see some tension between not so much the whole group, but definitely with Blake and Yang.
Yeah.
Look, I do want the group to be as whole and complete as together as they can, and even if it doesn't go into a romantic side of things, that's fine. But Blake leaving Yang left a huge hole in her beyond the stuff with her arm and everything else that happened. And while I still love the reuniting hug at the end of Volume 5, it definitely worked for that moment. We need to see some tension between them to fully capitalize on just how big an impact Blake leaving Yang was, and how much that Blake needs to understand that she really messed up, and she needs to make up for where she did wrong, and that will strengthen both characters and strengthen the group. Beyond that, some more show don't tell stuff is obviously another one. I don't want the Juniper guys, Jean, Ren, and Nora. I don't want them to be forgotten now that Team RWBY is back. Yeah. And you know what? I'll go for a shot in the dark. I would very much like to see Neo in Volume 6. I think... Actually, you know what? That's not my biggest one. The biggest one is, before we leave for Atlas, I want to see the Nikos family.
Yeah.
I think that is something that, with us looking like we're going to be leaving Mistral soon, that's something that I think we need to capitalize on now before any other instance, because I can't see us coming back to Mistral anytime soon. And that's something that has been a bit of a wasted potential using this kingdom. Like the underground, the criminal underground, the city itself. And to better elevate the seriousness of Pyrrha's death, the stuff with Jean, and just seeing like more fleshed out characters and more interesting emotional drama. Because God, we haven't been punched in the gut already, but let's do it some more. We need to see some of the Nikos family, and I want to say we might just on the oh God, I can't remember, but you've heard about the ship that's mentioned in the premise for the
Argus Limited.
Yeah, Argus Limited. I did some research, and the guy who built the ship for the Argonauts, which is what seemingly is the inspiration for that ship, the one who ordered Argus to do that was Athena, and I think Athena would be a very strong inspiration for Pyrrha's mother, I would feel, because obviously the Greek connections there. So I think that's a possible breadcrumb for that possible theory, but either way, that's something I do want to see before we go to Atlas.
In terms of, like, I guess, content that you're gonna do for Volume 6, like, if you want to tell everybody just sort of what type of videos you're gonna be putting out during that time.
Well, as per usual, I will be doing my reviews and my reactions. I want to do some other RWBY stuff, even on the lead up to that. I've got a recap project coming up that I want to do, and a very comedic RWBY skit that's going to be coming up. It's live action as well, but it's working off my acting side. So that's going to be fun. And even just like small side videos. I may even dip my toe into the theory side for this one. But I also want to be fleshing out into other stuff that isn't just RWBY related. Because I don't want to be stagnant on just that alone. But in terms of what may happen for me in terms of Volume 6, the sky's the limit, I guess.
So before we go, like, is there anything else sort of that you want to tell us, like, about yourself? Like, your hobbies outside of YouTube? Like, I see that, like, obviously you have the Kingdom Hearts poster. I know you like Kingdom Hearts. You mentioned My Hero Academia. I know you post, like, wrestling stuff on Twitter sometimes. I don't know anything about that, so I can't really say. But, like, do you want to kind of, like, tell people stuff like that? Like, maybe stuff that you're into or that you like and maybe your audience wouldn't, you know about?
In terms of like the wrestling stuff, that's just me being a fan, sharing my opinions on Twitter and that with some of my other friends. But yeah, I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm a huge anime fan in general, not just My Hero Academia. I've got my display behind me in my reactions now, Rama 1/2 and Detective Conan figures. And that's something that I do want to, again, bring more to my channel, some anime stuff, some more video game stuff. I want to start doing Twitch streaming proper and play some of the games I'm a big fan of there. But yeah, that's just a big side of me. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm a huge anime fan. I'm a huge football fan. That's probably like my biggest passion outside of that. Liverpool all the way. I also am a very big joke teller. So you may have seen that in terms of my reviews and my reactions, or any of Murder of Birds' streams. I make a lot of bad jokes in there. That's just me. I'm the kind of person who, even if I make a bad joke, I just make someone smile, and that does it for me. So that's the kind of person I am, if you want to know a bit more about me. I'm a big-time goof.
One last thing that I just thought of right now, but how did you come up with your username?
That's one I would have thought I would have been asked about sooner, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't have it in my list, and I was just like, wait, that's a good question. So...
No, that's fair. Well, again, this channel isn't like my most my first one, my strongest one, I started out with a combination of Tamaki Suo from Oron High School Host Club, Edward from Fullmetal Alchemist, and Rama to make Tamaran Ed. That was my like my first proper username. But in terms of like the one I have now, ThatKaitoDan, I'm a huge fan of kaitos, which is the Japanese word for phantom thieves. Like, obviously the biggest one now is Persona 5. I'm a huge fan of that. Kaito Kid as well. Dark Mousy, Lupin the Third. Those kind of characters. Even like westernized ones like Robin Hood. Big time fan of those kind of gentleman thief characters. And when I was making my new channel, I thought, you know, I want to have something that's a bit more unique. So I went with, well, I tried to go for the ThatKaitoDan, but that was taken. So I just went with ThatKaitoDan. And that's the moniker that I'm stuck with now.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan, for coming to join us, for being my guinea pig. I think this went rather well for a first time. So it's like...
Yeah, not bad.
Oh, man. Just as I said that, the call started breaking.
God, put me on the spot. Yeah. Well, this was fun until the end. Make sure you follow me on my channel, ThatKaitoDan, as well on my Twitter for any of my usual updates on RWBY, and on my channel as well. And of course, big thanks for Cal for inviting me on here.
Yay!
I'm sorry I went a bit botched at the end, but what can you do? And give a lot of love to her as well. She's awesome. So again, thank you for having me, and it's been a ton of fun. So thank you very much.
Bye, guys.